Hi there everyone, I am Aaron Shu. In today's video, let's talk about the 7 things that people with disabilities wish you knew. Number 1. A person's disability does not define who they are as an individual. People with disabilities are not defined by their disability. It is just but one of the many pieces to their identity. The essence of who someone is cannot be captured by their physical appearance, but it is based on their personality, their interests, their talents, their belief system, their character, their behavior, and so many other things. The unfortunate part, and this is something that I've actually experienced myself, is when people think that your disability defines you so much that they even address you according to it. And by addressing you according to your disability, I mean like calling you the crippled guy, the handicapped man, the blind woman, the autistic girl or the autistic child, or whatever else they think defines you and they call you like that. Addressing someone based on their disability or impairment is absolutely unacceptable. People with disabilities have names and should be addressed as such. Number 2, people with disabilities are not always dependent on others. Keyword being always. While it is true that people with severe disabilities often need the support of caregivers for their day-to-day living, it doesn't mean that every disabled person cannot be independent or have some degree of independence. People with disabilities are very good at adapting to their conditions, and I know that most people don't know this, but more often than not, we will find or they will find their own way of doing things that work for them. The misconception that all disabled people need constant care and depend on others 100% of the time is a result of stereotype. And the problem with this kind of stereotyping is that it segregates people with disabilities. For example, someone might actually think twice about inviting someone with a disability to an event or a function because they think, oh, now I have to take care of them as well, which is not really true. So you find that people with disabilities, we end up being even much more lonely because people think, oh, if I start talking to this guy, then I'm expected to take care of him, or I don't know. Number 3, you should know that life with a disability is normal, and I say normal in quotes. This is probably the biggest misconception that is out there about people with disabilities. Contrary to popular belief, disabled people are not always going in and out of the hospital. Yes, sometimes that is part of the package, but our lives for the most part are as normal or as regular as can be. Just like you, we also have family, we go to work, we have responsibilities, we have chores, we go out, we have fun. Things are not only dramatic or as unusual as most people might assume. This actually reminds me of those funny incidences where you go out as a wheelchair user, let's just say, and someone walks up to you and says, wow, I'm really happy to see you out and about. And I'm like, do we know each other, or like, haven't we seen each other in a while? And then you realize that no, it's a complete stranger who is just happy to see you out and about, as if like it's an unusual thing. I understand where this comes from. It comes from that fact that most people think that just because you have a disability, then you live a very abnormal life, which is totally not the case. Trust me on that. Number 4, people with disabilities can actually lead full and productive lives. People with disabilities are capable of participating and contributing fully to community life, contrary to popular belief. Some of you may not actually be aware of just how popular this belief is, that simply because someone has a disability, then it means their life is meaningless, that they can't do anything, they can't contribute to anything, and that they are just going to exist in emptiness until the day they die, which is an utter lie. If you take a close look around you, you'll definitely notice that the community is full of people with disabilities who are making the most out of their talents, their skills, and their lives. Having a disability doesn't make anyone less valuable less productive, or less capable. I know of many actors, I know of singers, I know of entertainers, I know of speakers who have disabilities, but they are great and they are excelling at what they do. Number 5, people with disabilities can do any job or get into any career of their choice. I strongly believe that the misconception that people with disabilities can only do basic unskilled jobs is perpetuated by the fact that most people think that a physical disability also means that one has a mental impairment. The reality is people with disabilities are just as skilled, talented, and capable as their non-disabled counterparts, as long as they have the necessary skill sets and qualifications that are required for a particular job or position. Don't hesitate to hire them. They too can get things done. Number 6, people with disabilities are not a one-dimensional group. As someone who's been disabled all his life, I cannot tell you how many times someone has made an assumption about me simply based on what they thought they knew or understood about people with disabilities or people with a condition similar to. It's insane. If I had $1 for every time that happened to me, man, I would have a lot of money. There's a tendency to think of people with disabilities as one-dimensional, like we have similar characteristics to other people with disabilities, and this couldn't be further from the truth. People with disabilities reflect the same diversity that already exists in the world. You would think someone would be reasonable enough to just understand this, but I get it. The thing is, we all have different values and beliefs, interests, opinions, and outlooks on life. We are not all the same and we don't all think alike. And finally, number 7, people with disabilities actually want to be in relationships and are capable of being in meaningful, sexual, intimate relationships. There are a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes about intimacy and dating for people with disabilities. One common misconception is that disabled people are not able to or cannot have romantic relationships, or some even think we are not interested in having relationships. I remember some time ago when I actually got a comment on one of my videos where somebody was saying they were surprised at my response to the question of whether I was open to marriage or not, and I said I was, and they said, oh, I didn't think you were actually interested in relationships. And I just read it and I was like, okay, interesting. And I have since noticed that it is something that a lot of people out there believe, and sadly that couldn't be any further from the truth. This is just an invalidated and dangerous misconception, as it actually creates a barrier that makes it more challenging for people with disabilities to experience romantic or sexual relationships.